So Biden said a couple of things. One, we all know the right way to build something is build an economy from the bottom up. I don't think we all know that. I certainly don't know that. I've never worked for a poor man. They are generally not the ones hiring, as we have pointed out earlier this week. But he says things are great. What is the new unemployment number?
3.6%.
Wow, that is incredible. 3.6%.
It's quite low.
Yeah, that's almost like full employment. When you get into the threes, you're headed towards all employment, where there's just no one else available for the jobs. Now, if I listen into Joe Biden, things are going so well. New jobs are being created. He's created, 7.5 million new jobs?
All him creating them. Yep.
Yeah, in the last year alone. Can I ask you a question? I haven't seen any of these new jobs. I haven't seen the new job creation. I live in Texas, and I do see the empty stores and restaurants and things that used to be there. And maybe there's a few new stores, but I'm not seeing them. Now, I'm in Texas that just has been on the ropes. There's no new job creation here at all. Wait a minute. So let me ask you this. Did we lose that many people? I mean, it must have been millions. The media, I know, is lying to us, but did we lose tens of millions of Americans in COVID?
No, we did not that many.
Okay, so
not that many.
Why is there a help wanted sign in almost every store, restaurant, everywhere?
That's because of Joe Biden's raging economy.
But these were the same jobs that were filled by people just 2 years ago, and now they can't fill them. Did they all go someplace? Did they die? Or are they all working in this mystic mountain, machinery, this great corporation in the sky that I haven't seen or heard from?
Maybe that. Maybe that's why. And maybe because that's such a jarring scenario, that's the reason they can't seem to recognize all of this bounty that they have. People are not recognizing the economic brilliance of Joe Biden and all the things he's brought to them.
Well, I mean, he did stand in front of the American people just about 15 minutes ago and say, look, here's the thing. People have more money in their pocket than they did a year ago.
I mean, it's technically probably true because the money is inflated so much that they need extra dollars to do anything. It's a fascinating thing, because we were talking about this with Michael Malice just a few minutes ago. It's good to go on offense. Republicans don't go on offense a lot. But it's not the only answer. You shouldn't be on offense when you have absolutely no argument. And Joe Biden has absolutely no argument.
I won't hear that. He just pointed out that he cut the deficit. Listen.
This one was really frustrating.
Not the debt, the deficit. He cut the deficit last year in 2021 by $350 billion. This year, he's cutting it by $1.3 trillion. That's the biggest reduction in deficit in our whole history.
Think of what disingenuous does not cover it. Think of what a pathetic lie this is. First of all, he's comparing this to a year where all of the businesses were closed and millions of people were fired because there's nowhere to work. So, yeah, tax revenues were pretty far down. We also spent multiple trillions of dollars on a pandemic.
Only 5.6.
So it's much more than that. But still, okay, 5.6 trillion on the front. We will cover the Fed stuff, I guess, another time.
Yeah.
But still, $5.6 trillion plus on COVID, just added on top. He reduces it by $350 billion from that number, which is terrible. I mean, it's a terrible job. Just by showing up to work, you should have been able to do $1 trillion off of that budget. It was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and you basically repeated it in year 2 when everyone wanted to go back, and you kept telling them not to. Then, this year, he's taking credit for $1.3 trillion in budget and deficit reduction. When that number is, first of all, not impressive considering what he's comparing it to, but secondly, only exists because his plan, Build Back Better, didn't pass. if it did pass, he wouldn't have saved $1.3 trillion off of the budget. It's only because of his failure that he can claim the success. That is his argument to the American people today.
This is a little like your house is on fire and it's burning down, and the fire department comes and starts putting it out. And you're like, dude, it is still out of control. And the fire department saying, I just reduced the temperature of your house by 400 degrees. And you're like, but it was 1,400. It's still 1,000 degrees in the house. I mean,
I know. And not to mention the fact that even before the pandemic, the deficits were too high. So he's taking a worst case, monumental, once in a century terrible number, reducing it slightly, then bragging about it, while the American people identify correctly as one of the biggest challenges we have is inflation. And what is his answer? He's talking about spending more money and then telling you it's going to fix inflation. He's talking about releasing millions of barrels from the strategic oil reserve, which will do nothing. It's not going to help the problem. If anything, it puts us at higher risk in a time of potential world war, so it's a terrible idea. But if you really wanted to knock a few cents off of the gas prices for a short time, your job would not be to release oil from the strategic oil reserve. You could knock out the federal tax of 18 cents and get it to go down 18 cents in a day. Now, should you do that? There's economic arguments against it, but at least there would be a straight line through some sort of sane, coherent thought process to change the gas prices in the short term. Whether that should be his goal or not, I mean, I want that tax to go away for other reasons, and it should stay gone away forever, and so should the state taxes. But this makes absolutely no sense.
Oh, boy, you haven't listened to the president. Look, he said.
Oh, he said, look. Okay,
come on, man.
Now, he said, come on, man?
This is a moment of consequence and peril for the world and pain at the pump for American families. Mm-hmm. It's also the moment of patriotism. I want to acknowledge those companies that have already announced that they're increasing immediate production. They're investing money to produce more oil and also clean technologies we need to reduce our dependence on oil in the future. They're investing money, really, because no bank is giving them money to invest. No bank is giving them money to pump more oil right now, because that is a reputational risk to the banks. Don't believe me? Ask the oil companies that are not under the thumb of their new wildly progressive environmentalist cabinet members or their board members like Exxon. No bank is giving these people any money. So they say they have everything they need. These oil companies, everything.
Of course, yeah.
Literally nothing, literally nothing, I'm quoting, is standing in their way. And they've indicated they'll be producing an extra 1 million barrels of oil per day, probably starting as early as this fall. Now, that's progress. Is it? Is that the best we can do?
No, that is not the best we can do.
But some companies have been pretty blunt. They don't want to increase supply because Putin's price hike means higher profits for them.
Right, because they wouldn't want more to sell in a market where prices were higher. That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, my gosh.
These greedy guys are pretty stupid.
One CEO even acknowledged that they don't care if the price of a barrel of oil goes to $200 a barrel. You know who says that? People who are environmentalists. They want it to go to $200 a barrel so you can't afford gasoline, and then you will cry out for the magical electric car that will not be ready because we don't have the energy capability for everybody to plug their car into the wall.
Or the nickel we need to make the batteries.
Oh, no. We're getting the nickel.
Oh, we'll get it. Mm-hmm.
No, we're getting it because he just took over that industry. Another War Powers Act. Can America wake up to the fascism? Another War Powers Act he just enacted yesterday to take over the nickel industry so he can force these companies to go get more nickel. Oh, my gosh.
And, of course, when government runs industries like that, it always works out really, really well.
Yeah, look at Cuba. I mean, do we need to say, look at how well all of these policies worked in Venezuela for their oil industry?
Really, really well. By the way, too, it was Stephen Colbert just the other day making a joke about how he doesn't care how if it goes to $15 a gallon, he's got a Tesla.
Yeah, you know what? There's somebody else that talked specifically about this. Now, I mean, it's a conspiracy theory. She doesn't have any power whatsoever to actually get people to do something. Here's cut 3. Nancy Pelosi.
But we cannot allow the fossil fuel industry to use this as an excuse to reverse everything we're doing to save the planet. One of the things I think that the president may say, I don't have this as a fact, is that we will use the Defense Production Act to speed up diversification so that we're not so dependent
War power.
on oil.
She doesn't have it as a fact. The president might say it, and then she looks down at a piece of paper and reads the words Defense Production Act. What do you mean she doesn't have it as a fact?
Jeez. So she is saying, but the good news is we cannot let these oil companies use this as an excuse to go back and producing more oil. Did you hear what she's saying there? We can't use this. They can't use this as an excuse. Meanwhile, he's saying they don't want to do it because they're making so much money. Which one is it, guys?
Nothing makes sense.
Both of them, stay calm, are invoking the War Powers Act. Oh, and one other thing. The president announced yesterday, and he repeated it again in his speech, we are now going to be releasing 1 million barrels of oil from our strategic reserve every day until sometime in fall. 1 million. Do you know what the strategic oil reserve is for? The name kind of gives it away. It's strategic. It's in case the United States has to go to war, because we learned our lesson in World War II. He should know it. I mean, you know, I think Biden was 47 when we fought that war. We learned our lesson. We have to have oil. We must have oil, or we're not going to be able to fly our planes or sail our ships. Aircraft carriers won't work. Tanks won't work. Jeeps won't work. Nothing works without oil. So if we had to fight a war, we wanted to make sure that we had enough oil for that war. He is taking that down almost 40%. If we had it filled to the rim, we're left just with this tap, not the last one, just this tap is going to take us to 60% of oil reserves, okay? 60%. We probably have lost another 10% of our oil reserves from the last one he just did. We're sitting at 50 to 60% of our oil, assuming we started full. We're sitting on half of the strategic reserves, and they're seriously still talking about a nuclear war. What the almost used the wrong word for broadcast is wrong with these people? No, I know what's wrong with them. What's wrong with the American people? What is wrong? Are we this stupid? Are they going to get away with releasing our oil reserve? Everybody who is barely making it, if you want to save the country, you should still be saying no on that much oil being. It's the largest release in the history of our country. Good God, I could not dismantle this country faster. If I had all the experts in the world and they all hated America, I could not dismantle this country faster than this administration is doing it. And by the way, mark my words, soon they're going to have the final solution for America. They will tell us, we have to do these really crazy emergency things. We have to do it, but it's the only way to survive. Yeah. America, Their solution will not actually be an economic shower. Don't go into that room.